One of the things that I get an opportunity to do as I go around and I speak in front of different audiences and as I talk to my different coaching clients, what I get to do is I witness a lot of people with great talent. And although they have this great talent, unfortunately, they still fall short. I meet a lot of people that have a lot of resources, that they have the right initials behind their last name, that not only that, but that they have the right amount of money in their bank account, and they've had some success in their time. But when it comes to their goals and their dreams, somehow, some way, they still manage to come up short. I meet some people that have big dreams, massive dreams, dreams that when I hear about their ideas, I say, man, this person is brilliant. Man, this person is creative. Man, this person has great potential. And yet and still, they come up short. But when I look and I think about what's the great equalizer, what's the thing that if you're coming up a little short on the talent? What's the thing that if you're coming up a little short on the resources? What's the thing if you're coming up a little short on the ideas, on the creativity? What's the thing that can even the playing ground? And I'm going to tell you what that thing is. As a matter of fact, Abraham Lincoln, our former president, he was one of the first ones to say it, and here's what he said. He said that things may come to those who wait, but he said make sure you make no mistake about it. Only the things that are left by those who hustle. And so here's what I know, that even if you don't have all the talent in the world, even if you don't have all the resources, even if you're lacking in creativity and ideas, that you can balance out the playing field, that you can still make your mark, that people will be able to hear you, that you'll be able to break away from the crowd, that you'll be able to do a significant impact if you're willing to have some hustle, if you're willing to do whatever it takes, if you're willing to get uncomfortable. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump said that you have to get outside of your comfort zone. Why? Because your comfort zone is in direct opposition of your greater self. As a matter of fact, Brian Tracy said that your comfort zone is your danger zone. And so here's what I know. The people who are willing to get their hustle on, those that are willing to do whatever it takes, they're not concerned about operating outside of their comfort zone. They're not concerned about what the results are. They're not concerned what other people are going to think about them. They're not concerned about the fact that they may have to lose some sleep. They're not concerned about the fact that they're going to have to call up some people who may be on their chicken list. They're not concerned about someone saying, hey, what is that, some kind of pyramid scheme you're involved in? They're not concerned about someone saying, hey, what makes you qualified to be able to pursue your goals and dreams and do this thing that you're looking to do? No. The only thing that they know how to do is hustle. The only thing that they know how to do is to get it done. And because of that, they pass those that have talent, because they're not sitting there and overanalyzing the situation. Because of that, they pass those with big dreams, because instead of just simply dreaming, they're willing to follow those dreams with action and take the steps and not be concerned about what the outcome is going to be. They're not intimidated by other people that have more resources or more initials, because they understand that what Theodore Roosevelt said is absolutely correct, that no matter what the situation is, that you got to do the best you can with what you have, with where you are right now. And so that's what it means to hustle. And so what I'm challenging you to do tonight is, as you look at your goals and your dreams and you think about this thing that you know that you've been wanting to do, that you've been meaning to do, that maybe perhaps you've been talking yourself out of it. You're saying to yourself that I don't have the resources. You're saying to yourself that maybe perhaps I don't have the connection. You're saying to yourself that I don't have the right amount of experience. You're saying to yourself that I've already tried. And what I'm saying to you is, if you're looking to break through, if you're looking to make this thing happen, that what you've got to be willing to do is you've got to be willing to hustle. And the people who are willing to hustle, they're not concerned about what other people think. The people who are willing to hustle, they continue to push on regardless of the circumstances. You know, it was just this past weekend. I've got one of my little cousins that, unfortunately, we don't get to see each other face to face very often. He's able to keep up with what I'm doing on Facebook, and I keep up with what he's doing on Facebook as well. As a matter of fact, I'm very, very, very proud of him, because every once in a while when I'm at home, I can catch him on the news. As a matter of fact, he works for NBC6. He is one of the journalists. And I'm so proud of him, because I know it's been a lifelong dream of his. And so he graduated from college back in 2008. He attended Wartburg College, and he got his degree in electronic media. And unfortunately for him, when he got out in 2008, he thought that he was just going to be able to create his little demo reel. He thought that he was going to be able to just take his reel and demos and mail it out to the different news stations, and his telephone would start ringing. But as he continued to put his demo reels out there and pay for postage and get them to all the different media stations and to get them out to news stations, not just here in South Florida, but all the different markets, slowly but surely, when he was expecting that telephone to ring, when he was expecting to get a phone call, he was expecting to hear back from somebody, no answer. And next thing you know, now an entire year has gone by, and he hasn't even made a dent. He hasn't even started working in his industry. Now he's in the second year. He continues to work and put out these demo tapes, and he's submitting his resume and doing everything he can. He's setting up his LinkedIn profile and making phone calls to old classmates and old professors and seeing if there's any way that he can get in there in the industry. And yet, after 2 years, no results, unfortunately. Still not able to get in, and now reality is kicking in. Now he's 3 years out of college. Now, unfortunately, now he can't just rely on living off of his parents, and now he's realizing that he's going to have to start making these payments, pay back these student loans, and be able to pay some of his own expenses. And so now he realizes now is the time to hustle. That I realized, and he realized that he had to do some things that maybe he didn't necessarily want to do. And one of the things that he had to do, here he is with a degree from Wartburg College, with a degree in electronic media, and he starts looking for a job. And the first job that he lands, he's valet parking vehicles. And every day as he's standing there and he's valet parking these cars and people are pulling up, all he keeps thinking about is, man, I never thought in a million years that I was going to go and get a degree in electronic media and have dreams of becoming a news broadcaster, have dreams of becoming a journalist. I didn't think that I'd be sitting here and valet parking cars. And here's what I know, and some of you know what it feels like when you have this goal and this dream, this thing that you've been working on, and you make a good-hearted effort at it. And unfortunately, even though you've been making the phone calls and talking to people and seeing if they'd be interested in partnering up with you in your business, and maybe you've been making the phone calls and trying to see if these people are willing to bring you in to speak, and maybe you've been calling up the banks and sitting down and seeing if you could get people to invest in your business opportunity, or see if you could get approved for this loan. Or maybe you've been out there and you've been putting in the time, putting in the effort, you've been working on the business plan, or you've been having these thoughts about going back to college, and now it's starting to be 2-3 years removed, and you're realizing that you're making no progress. And so the question is, what do you do when you find yourselves in that situation? What do you do when you just want to curl up and give up? What do you do? And here's what I realized. Here's what you got to do. You can't just sit there and keep waiting. No, Abraham Lincoln made it clear. He said, things may come to those who wait, but he said, make no mistake about it. Only the things that are left by those who hustle. And so what I love is I was listening to my cousin share his story. I said, man, I didn't know you were valet parking. He said, yeah, man. He said, things got tough. He said, I was barely making enough money to get by. He said, but I knew I had to keep hustling, man. And he said, finally, I saved up just enough money. And he said, Andy, he said, it was a stretch. He said, I had to pass up on a couple of meals. It was a stretch to do what I had to do in order to save up money to get a new laptop so I could be able to continue to edit my videos. And he said, it was a stretch. I had to save up my money in order to get me a new camera. And he said, all I continued to do, instead of giving up, he said, I continued to hustle. I started to watch the other news anchors, and I continued to study. I continued to hustle and make my demo tapes. I continued to hustle and mail them out to all the different news stations. I continued to hustle. I was mailing them out, not just here in South Florida, but I was mailing them out to all the different markets, understanding that being able to get hired down here in the South Florida market is very difficult. South Florida market is number 16 market. There's over 200 media markets. It's difficult to penetrate the market here. But he said, I just had to continue hustling. And he said, I just kept, as I just was working on my day job in order to pay the bills. He said, I continued on my hustle, man. I continued to watch. I started making better and better clips. I started taking different camera shots and angles. I found events that I could cover myself just so I could have demo tapes. I practiced different angles. I practiced different approaches. And finally, after about 5 years, without ever having to be able to find a job within the industry, 5 years of mailing out demo tapes, 5 years of not hearing any responses, 5 years of getting my hustle on. After 5 years, I finally got an opportunity with NBC6. NBC6, man. There's over 200 markets. South Florida is the number 16 market. He said, Andy, sometimes when I'm watching myself on TV, I have to pinch myself. He said, I got classmates, man, that graduated at the top of the class, that they're calling me and they're trying to figure out, what did I do? They're saying, David, man, what did you do? What did you do, man? They said, we've been working out here, man. We're sitting here, we're trying to penetrate the market, man. We're trying to get in front of the camera like you. And some of us have, but most of us, we're like in the number 150 market. You're in one of the top 20 markets, the South Florida market, the number 16 market. What did you do? I'm going to tell you what David did. Yeah, David got his hustle on. Yeah, when you decide to hustle, you don't judge the circumstances. No. When you decide to hustle, you don't care about what people think, what they're going to say. You graduated from where? In your valet parking? When you are deciding to hustle, you don't care about the fact that people aren't getting back to you and your telephone isn't ringing. When you are trying to hustle, you don't concern yourself that you've been putting in not just 1 year, but 2 years, 3 years, and 4 years, and 5 years, and you're still not getting the results. No. When you decide to hustle, what you say to yourself is, I'm going to do whatever it takes. When you decide to hustle, you say, I'm not going to judge the circumstances. When you decide to hustle, you say to yourself that I'm going to operate outside of my comfort zone. When you decide to hustle, you say to yourself that I'm going to get out there and make it happen. And so right now, I want you to think about your goals and your dreams. And this thing that you know that you've been putting out on the back burner, this thing that you know that you've got to do. Because you need to pick up this phone and make some phone calls, because there's some people that you've been avoiding having a conversation with that you need to speak to. Or maybe perhaps there's a business plan that you've been afraid to put it in front of some people, or maybe someone told you no about 5 times and you're trying to avoid them telling you no again. Or maybe you're concerned about what people are going to say, or maybe you're concerned about the rejection, the fear of failure. And what I say to you is this, that yes, you can sit around and wait. And every once in a while, if you sit around and wait, something could fall on your lap. But Abraham Lincoln said this. He said, things may come to those who wait, but only the things that are left by those who hustle. So now is the time to hustle. 2013 is the time to hustle. That competition is fierce. That people are out there and they're trying to make things happen, that somebody out there right now is working on that book that you've been talking about. Somebody right now is working on this business opportunity that you've been putting off. Somebody right now is submitting their one sheet. They're submitting something, their resume, to this job opportunity that you've been talking yourself out of. Somebody right now is hustling, and ultimately that's going to be the person. Yeah, that's going to be the person that's going to win. That's going to be the person that's going to get the results. Yeah, they may not have it all figured out, but they are willing to hustle. They're just willing to position themselves. You know, I think about this. It was a couple years ago, and I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was speaking at the Marriott Marquis Hotel. And I was speaking in front of an audience of, I don't know, maybe about 500 to 800 people. And I was sharing with them my signature story. Most of you on the line know my signature story. And you know that from my signature story, I have my tagline, and I brand everything under this tagline, show up for your life. And I was on this stage and I was sharing the signature story about my mom and having come from the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And I got to this epic, the climax part of the story where my mom is sitting here and she's bidding on this property. And impulsively, for the first time, I had shared the story before, but impulsively, as I was sharing the story and I talked about how my mom won the bid at the auction, I got caught up in the moment. And in that moment, I said, sold to the woman who was willing to show up. And right after saying that, I went on this rant with the audience and I said, ladies and gentlemen, you got to be willing to show up. You got to show up in spite of the circumstances. You got to show up in spite of the conversation that's going on in your mind. You've got to show up even at the times when you want to talk yourself out of it. You've got to show up even when you had the past disappointments and failures. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to show up for your life, because if you don't, nobody else will. And I had never practiced it. I didn't rehearse it. It was something that was given to me by a source much greater than myself. And I remember getting off the stage and a little later on walking around and going down to the product table. And when everything was over, there was a line of people who were coming up to talk to me. And one by one, after they spoke to me, there was something that all of them just continued to say. And I could tell that out of all the things that I shared in my speech, out of all the other stories that I shared, there's something that stuck with these people. One by one, these people were coming up and say, oh man, Andy, your story spoke to me. They said, hey, I'm going to show up for my life. And another person would come up and say, hey, you showed up and you showed out. I like that. Another guy come up to me and say, hey, man, that's what I'm talking about. I'm going to show up for my life. And I decided to stay for the rest of the weekend. And as I was walking through the hotel, there's people that I don't even remember them being in the audience. They point at me and they say, show up for your life. And I say, you got it. And another person would say to me and say, hey, I'm going to show up. I like that. I said, okay. Another person would see me and say, hey, you to show up for your life. You the Mr. Show Up man, huh? I said, yeah. And what I realized is that this thing stuck, this concept, this idea of showing up for your life, that it meant something to people, that people could relate to it. It was a simplistic term. And so I got excited. I said, man, this is awesome. I've got to work with this. I gotta milk this thing. And so I remember the following day, I said, let me go on the internet and let me go ahead and buy the domain name, because this is obviously something that's working, and this may be something that I want to brand myself under. And so I got on the internet, and when I went on GoDaddy, I went on there to buy the domain name, and it was already taken. I was like, oh, no. Somebody else already has Show Up for Your Life. Oh, no. And so I said, well, I got to see what they're doing with this. First of all, who has Show Up for Your Life? What are they doing with it? Maybe it's another motivational speaker. I hope it's not. Oh, my goodness. So I go and I put it in, showupforyourlife.com. And it said, showupforyourlife.com is owned by such and such company. And this website is a temporary website that they're using in order to just simply park this domain name. And so there's a part of me that was so disappointed. And when I looked, I saw that this particular company had actually owned this domain name for a couple years. And so there's a part of me where I felt, a little bit of the wind come out of me. You know that feeling. You have an idea, you get excited about it, you get on the internet, you Google it, and you find out somebody else had that idea. You come up with a saying, and you get excited about it, or you come up with a book title, you Google it, you find out somebody else had it. Or you develop something, you're excited, you talk to a friend about it, and they say, oh, well, that sounds real good, but I know somebody else is doing that. And so there's a part of you that wants to stop pursuing it. There's a part of you that doesn't know if it's going to work out. There's a part of you that say, hey, this is not going to happen. But there's something in me that said, hold on, man, you've got to hustle and see if there's anything that you can do. And so right away, I started to send out emails, and I tried to see if I can contact the owner, and I would send out one email after another, and finally I got a response, and they said, yes, we do own this domain name, and we are not interested in whatsoever in selling it. And if we do plan on selling it, trust and believe that we will be asking a very hefty premium for it. And I said, well, that's okay. That's okay. If you do decide to sell it, please let me know, please. And I didn't hear back from them. And so constantly, a month would go by. I'd go back and check. I'd email, no response. And then finally, 6 months went by. Go back and check. Email, no response. And then after that, about a year went by. Go back and check. No response. And then I started doing research. Are there companies out there that can help me, that would negotiate on my behalf to help me get this domain name? Is there anything that I can do? And in the process of hustling, in the process of doing the research, in the process of getting uncomfortable, in the process of doing whatever it takes, I learned about something called back order. I said, well, what is that? And what a back order means is somebody can own a domain name. And most domain names are renewed for about a year or 2 years. And every once in a while, for people who are just sitting on domain names, because of the fact they're not really actively using it, because of the fact that they're just using and holding on and sitting on the name, normally if they're doing it with one website, they're normally doing it with others. Every once in a while, they don't follow through. And if the website were to expire, what a back order allows you to do is it allows you to place a bid, and they will automatically monitor the domain name, and the moment it expires, they will attempt to buy it quickly before the person even realizes it expired. And so I said, man, I didn't know anything about this, but because of the fact that I was actively engaged in the process of hustling, and I said, man, this person is just sitting on this showupforyourlife.com. They're doing nothing with it. I've attempted to call them, and so I said, let me take my chances. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to submit some money, and I'm going to go ahead and try this back order process. And then sure enough, we found out that the thing was approaching its expiration date. And I thought to myself, there's no way. I've called these people up. I told them I wanted to buy it. Obviously, they know I'm interested. There's no possible way that they would fail to actually go ahead and renew this domain name. There's no possible way that they could be that sloppy. I said, but I'm just going to go ahead and try it anyway. I'm just going to go ahead and get my hustle on. I'm going to go ahead and pay this money. And, hey, if it doesn't work out, at least I know I tried. At least I know I put in the effort. And sure enough, about 3 months go by. And I open up my email, and it says, congratulations. I'm like, well, what does it mean, congratulations? What is GoDaddy talking about? And it says, congratulations. Just to let you know, inform you, the back order that you placed about 90 days ago, the domain name did become expired, that once it's expired, that we give the individual, the company, about a 60-day grace period in order to renew their domain name. And they failed to renew their domain name. There was an auction and there was a bid, and based off of the money that you allotted us to be able to bid, you won the auction. You are now the owner of showupforyourlife.com. Wow. And so when I look back, what's the difference? What is it that allowed me to be able to have this thing that is really, truly the landmark of my brand, the thing that I'm known for? And what it is that I was willing to hustle. Yeah, I was willing to hustle, even though somebody else was sitting on it and somebody else was just waiting. That I understood that what Abraham Lincoln said was absolutely correct, that things may come to those who wait, but only the things that are left by those who hustle, because those who hustle will get it first. Those who hustle make things happen. Those who hustle don't wait for the telephone to ring. They pick it up and make the phone calls themselves. Those who hustle, they aren't afraid to pick up the phone and call people on their chicken list. No, they pick up the phone and they call them. They say, hey, I want to talk to you about this business business opportunity. Those who hustle don't wait for someone to say, hey, can you come in and talk to our organization? No, they pick up the phone and they call the decision makers and they say, hey, I want to come in and speak. Those who hustle, they don't wait to have the right initials behind their last name. No, they start picking up a pen and a paper and they just start writing that book. Those who hustle, they don't wait for the opportune time and for the perfect circumstances and waiting for the kids to go off to college or to make sure that they're finished with their degree. No, they're willing to do whatever it takes. And those who hustle are the ones who break through the crowd. You know, at the beginning of this call, I heard a good speaker friend of mine his name is Chris Gloss. Chris is known as the possibilitarian. And I remember it was about a little over a year ago, I saw Chris make a post, and I still remember it to this day. He said, hustle is the new currency. And so you may not have the resources. You may not have the right initials behind your name. You may have tried over and over again, but I tell you one thing. Here's the thing that's going to even it out. It doesn't matter what your initials are. It doesn't matter how much money's in your bank account. It doesn't matter how long you've been trying. If you're willing to get out there and hustle and continue to make the phone calls, get out there and hustle and keep putting yourself out there, get out there and hustle and go back to school if that's what you've been wanting to do. Get out there and hustle and work on your dream and work on your goals. If you get out there and hustle and stop waiting and understand that what Abraham Lincoln said was absolutely correct, that things don't come to those who wait, but only the things that are left by those who hustle. And ultimately, that the greater difference in you accomplishing your goals and your dreams, that the thing that's going to allow you to break through the crowd is you willing to get your hustle on. Yeah, that's right. It's your time to hustle. This has been Andy Henriquez, and I want to remind you to always show up for your life. Because if you don't, ladies and gentlemen, nobody else will.